Welcome back to the 11th episode of Real College Reviews. I'm your host, as always, Jude Bazerman, and I'm here with one of my best friends in the world, Matthew Paris. Matt, you want to just introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm Matt. I'm a sophomore at Rowan, and I'm a business management major.
Well, I guess we'll jump right into it. Matt, I know before the show you were telling me how you want to transfer out of Rowan. You almost signed the papers to go to Seton Hall. That didn't end up happening. What was the thought process, really, of why you decided to stay at Rowan, at least for your sophomore year?
I don't think I ever gave it a fair chance, and I thought when things got hard in the middle of winter and the classes and work was piling up, my first instinct was to kind of leave since I wasn't enjoying my time there. After spring break, the weather got warmer, the work was slowing down after I made it over the worst part of the semester, and then maybe things weren't so bad, so that's why going into that last half of April and once the semester ended and I was back home, I think that really convinced me to give it another shot.
And I guess I'll ask, too, because adjusting from a high school schedule where it's really just kind of cut and dry, like 8 to 3 you're doing your work, you might have an hour or two of homework, after you get home. What was that adjustment like? What are some suggestions you have for kids going into college to make adjustments smooth from a high school workload to a college workload?
A lot of your college courses are going to be easier than my first semester was easier than my hardest year of high school. So that was for me personally. And another thing, you'll never have this much free time as a first semester freshman. It was alarming how much time you need to fill. Even if you're going to be a hard major with work piling up, you're still going to have way more hours than you did in high school, especially if you played sports, because 7 hours of school, 2 hours of sports, and then whatever homework you have after,
It takes up your whole day.
you only have 2-3 hours at night to yourself. In college, it's triple that per day.
So what did you end up doing with all that free time?
At first, it was trying to get ahead on other courses in my schoolwork. A lot of it was getting around, trying to meet new people, like just exploring the campus and getting around, see what I could do. That's what I tried to do at first. Get familiar.
And you mentioned how your first semester of college was the easier than any high school marking period or semester. Why was that? Was it just because the work was easy? Did you know the work from other high school classes? Why'd you find it so easy compared to high school?
It was a lot of gen eds, and I, at the time, wasn't a declared major, so I had Intro to Sociology, which is a class that you could take as a junior in high school in our town. I had another science class that was at a high school level, pre-algebra because they wouldn't let me test into, or pre-calculus because they wouldn't let me test into
Which you
Calc
took in
1.
high school.
Yeah, and even though I took that in high school, I had to test into Calc 1. So it was a lot of classes that I took in my senior year or even junior year of high school.
And I guess we'll start jumping into more Rowan-specific things. What other colleges were you considering before you went to Rowan, and what was the final choice back when you were a senior in high school to choose Rowan?
So I wanted to stay in the area. I only applied to Jersey and PA schools. Going away was never something I considered. The other schools in my top four, I applied to Stockton, Bloomsburg in Pennsylvania, Kutztown in Pennsylvania. The furthest was Marist in New York. All these are within a 2 or so hour drive.
Yep.
And that I thought that was right for me. It was going away, but it also wasn't hopping on a plane and coming back for breaks, and that's it.
Rowan is kind of different than a lot of those other schools. At least Marist is small and private. Kutztown's a little bit smaller, too.
In the middle of nowhere as
Yeah,
well.
literally in the middle of nowhere. I guess what I'm trying to ask for Rowan specifically here, when you went onto campus, and I mean, you've spent a full year there, is it more of a big campus feel like Rutgers, or is it more a smaller campus like somewhere like Marist? What's the vibes?
So it has 18,000 kids, which is a large student body, but the campus itself isn't huge for 18,000 people. That's what I thought initially. So it may have a lot of kids, but it doesn't feel huge. I've seen bigger campuses with smaller people. Like the amount of acres is not that many compared to what you would think for a school with that student body. So
Yeah, because 18,000 is pretty big. Montclair State, which is, right by where we live, has about 21,000. Their campus is humongous.
Yeah, it's noticeably bigger than Rowan's for not only 3,000 more students bigger, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And Rowan's in Glassboro, right?
Yes.
Is that in the middle of nowhere too? Is there stuff to do outside of campus? What's life like in South Jersey?
So it's in Gloucester County, and it's in the middle of Glassboro, just a regular suburb But Glassboro, it's a bigger town. It's definitely bigger than Caldwell, West Caldwell. So there is stuff to do in the area because it is a big town, but it's also a half hour outside of Philadelphia. So
Yeah.
the campus itself offers shuttles to the city on weekends. You could easily get in a car if your friends have one and drive into the city. It's only a half hour. So there's definitely a bunch to do in the area. That's no worry because
Mhm.
it is in the middle of a suburb outside of a city.
Yeah, and did you ever use any of those shuttles to Philadelphia?
I had a friend who had a car, so we took that.
Okay, because I was gonna ask, like, when I interviewed Aaron earlier in the show for Montclair State, he talked about they having subways to, or not subways, but trains to New York City. He's like, yeah, I've never used them. A lot of these colleges offer stuff, and people never use them. But I guess you're not really that guilty for it if your friend has a car. How often do you see yourself going to Philadelphia or really far off campus? Because you did have access to a car in some capacity your freshman year.
So it is easily a night trip. It's only about, with traffic, it'll take you 45 minutes both ways. And an hour and a half of driving for a day is not bad. That
Yeah.
could be a one-way trip, let alone two. So if you want to Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, or even in an afternoon take on the city, you could get there easily and kill a bunch of hours.
And in the city of Glassboro itself, nightlife speaking, are there like bars, restaurants? Is there anything to do? Or you said it's a suburb. Is it kind of like Caldwell, West Caldwell, where we live, where everything kind of dies down by 9 or 10 o'clock?
It's a bigger town, so there's more to do than Caldwell, West Caldwell, and it's got a huge college on it, so they build things around. There's
Yeah.
frat houses and bars right around the campus, and if you go a couple of streets like away from campus, it's just Caldwell, just larger. But definitely in and around the campus, there's a bunch of strip malls, shopping centers, things to do because they build it around the campus.
So yeah, like you just said, they build it around the campus. It's almost like Rowan is like the geographic center. Rowan University is the geographic center of Glassboro.
Yeah, when you have a college that big in a town, it kind of has to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess because they build things around it, they're like a lot of like Syracuse, right? The college is kind of built into the town. The town wasn't built around the college, but Rowan, it's opposite. So do you see a lot of like restaurants catered towards college kids? Like Chick-fil-A is really popular with college kids. Is there one? Everyone loves Chick-fil-A. Is there one at Rowan? Like, what are some other options if you don't want to keep eating in the dining halls over and over again?
So there's this street called Rowan Boulevard. It's technically off campus, I think, but it's Rowan Boulevard. There's a bunch of restaurants. The sports bar there is Chicky and Pete's, which,
Crab fries.
yes,
Some of the best French fries I've ever had.
it's more of a South Jersey, Philly thing. So there's one around there that is packed 20, not 24/7, whatever its hours are. You always crowded, and there's a place called Alumni Grill, which is like a sandwich shop that's always hopping, and there's definitely a bunch of restaurants. Not that many fast food places, not like a Chick-fil-A or Wendy's nearby, but there's restaurants, sports bars, and a bunch of takeout places nearby.
So there's definitely a ton of options if you, yeah, because dining hall food, which we'll get into a little bit later, you get sick of it no matter how good or highly it's rated or how much you enjoy it. You get sick of the same food over and over again. So there's a ton of food, like you said, to eat at Rowan if you're done with the dining hall.
Oh, so speaking of, I forgot one thing. There's also a place called Cookie Munchers. It's like a gourmet like cookie shop. They make like cookie cakes and whatnot, and
Okay.
they're open till 3 a.m. and you'll find people in there all hours of the day.
So it's perfect, right? You're walking home from doing whatever, and you're just like, oh, I need some food. I might not have anything back at the dorm room. Dining halls obviously aren't open. They've been closed for hours. You go to this cookie shop. But going back onto Rowan's campus, the actual size of the campus really isn't that big, you said, for the amount of students that go there. But from a purely aesthetic standpoint, right, looking at buildings, just the way it's structured, is it a pretty campus? Do you like walking around it? Or
No, I saw this link to a website. I first got put onto it through a TikTok. I saw a website put Rowan as the 10th ugliest campus in the country.
not even New Jersey, in the entire
country.
country? Wow.
I slightly disagree with it making top 10, but it's nothing to write home about. It's definitely average looking in my opinion.
So the campus, like the way it looks, wasn't like the main reason why I went there. It's not like Notre Dame or
No,
somewhere like that where it's like everyone knows what the campus looks like. It's
yeah,
more.
you're not going there for how the campus looks. It's more of just a convenience thing.
Mhm.
There's only like pathways in there's no like open areas. There's no common areas. Like when I went to see Jamie with my brother, there's a whole like green area. There's whole grass area where people will just on a nice day, people will just congregate and you
Throw a
won't see-
frisbee or a football
Yeah,
or
there's
just do homework.
there's nowhere like that on Rowan. Like outside of business hall, there's a grass area, but it's not big at all.
And with the buildings themselves, right? Are they nice? Are they new? And are your classes close to each other, or are they like a far walk?
So Rowan has been under construction and they've been turning over a lot of the campus. So there are some rundown buildings older, and the business hall and the College of Science and Math they're newer. They're very well designed buildings because the campus is being overdone. The student center has been being overhauled, and that should be done by, they say, fall 23. It was being done all of last year.
So hopefully it's done when you get back to campus.
Should be. That's what they say.
I think with college construction, at least in my experience, they'll tell you a date. It's just like they're throwing a dartboard blindfolded and they just
Yeah.
land on something. But is Rowan, I guess, you might not know this just because it's more of like a statistical thing, but is Rowan like a fast growing college? Because
Yes,
I know Montclair
very.
State's heavily expanding.
Rowan, they advertise themselves like they're fast growing, and you can see it. Like they're trying to overhaul the older things and bring in the new. Their student body is growing by the year, so it's definitely different in that way because a lot of colleges like these people go to, like they're kind of set. They're growing, but not fast enough to where you need to build new buildings and
Yeah.
tear down old ones.
I guess staying on Rowan's campus, maybe it's not that pretty, but maybe the students are something that's a bright spot of Rowan. I mean, what's the typical Rowan student like? I already hear your laugh. This could be really good or really bad. What's the typical Rowan student like? And do you see yourself as like someone who fits the bill as a Rowan student?
Absolutely not. Like that, that average student at Rowan, they're not typically going there to play school, is what I notice among the freshmen. Unless you're in like a STEM major, you chose Rowan because you could get away at college and party. That's what I noticed.
And you're more of someone who's committed to their academics. Maybe not like a total bookworm, but
I'm not going out 3 times a weekend, you know?
yeah. And I guess going off of the going out and having fun part of Rowan. Rowan has Greek life, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that big there, or is it kind of small? And do you have to be in a frat to kind of go to parties? And are you in a frat? Just what's the Greek life scene like from your perspective?
I'm not in a frat, no, and I don't plan on rushing. But you don't have to be in one to get into a frat party. As long as you got a couple girls with you, you can get in anywhere fine if you get there early enough.
So as long as you have the ratio,
Yeah.
you'll be good. Are there like cover fees, or just if you have like 3 girls and one of you, like you're good?
It depends on the frat you go to, and it depends on who's at the door. If it's a busy night, they all advertise $15, but if you get in early and you got ratio, they might throw you a 10. If it's peak hours, they might ask you for 20s.
Mm-hmm. So again, it's just like the construction thing, right? It's just a suggestion.
It's just a
So
suggestion.
just
Yeah.
make sure you have like $20 cash in your pocket, I guess, if you're going to these parties.
Venmo only. They don't take cash.
Oh, no cash?
No.
No under the table. See, at least they pay tax, I would assume. I'm just kidding.
Rowan frats are a business, man.
But say you can't find a frat party, you're not in a frat, or maybe that's not your type of thing. If you're under the age of 21, I don't mean to incriminate you at all here, but if you're under the age of 21, you don't want to go to a frat party, but you also don't want to just sit in your dorm room and do nothing on a Friday, Saturday, or even Thursday night. Is there stuff to do in Rowan besides like going out to eat at 8 o'clock? Like, are there bars? Are there off-campus house parties?
There's off-campus house parties aren't as big because we do have frats, and all the frat houses are really close by, so that's why the house party scene is smaller.
Mm-hmm.
But I lived in the worst freshman dorm building on campus, so it was quiet on a Friday, Saturday night at 9 o'clock because everyone was going somewhere else. But all my friends lived in Holly Point, which was the new building built in 2017. It's the nice building. It's where everyone goes to. So if I wanted to do something small, I'd go over to my friend's dorm in that building.
And I guess right now we'll jump right into the dorm rooms too. Rowan's a fast-growing campus, like we've touched on a million different times in this podcast. Are they building any new dorm rooms, or are those kind of staying the same? Because I know a lot of the colleges kind of neglect building new dorm rooms in favor of academic buildings.
Which I guess is smart. It's what you want to do, especially the freshman dorm buildings aren't getting touched. They're renovated. They're just letting those sit.
And you said yours was the worst, right? Why was it the worst? Like just the kids that were in there, or like the actual dorm room structure and how it was built?
The structure and how it was built. Like the walls were a cinder block. The bathrooms were run down. It was just a square brick building, and it was not nice to look at, not nice to be in. Even the rooms themselves weren't like, everything was older, run down, and it was really just not good.
Did you even have like, this is gonna sound ridiculous, but the way you're making it sound like, did you at least have like a window in your dorm
Yeah,
room?
yeah, there were windows.
So it wasn't like a total jail cell. Like you could at least see the light.
There's a set of two windows, like just one big divided
Yeah.
into two. One didn't even open. Like it was just it was permanently closed. You couldn't open it.
And I'm gonna guess because you were in the worst freshman dorm room at Rowan, you didn't have any AC, did you?
No.
So
No AC, no lights. You were on your own for everything.
no lights. Like there weren't any like lights built in.
Yeah, no lights built in. You had everything was by lamp. I had to bring a few like electric, like newer lamps. Not like one of those you have right there. So that would cover light, and you had to have multiple box fans to have you covered in, especially from September and late April into May. If you didn't have two fans running, you were gonna sweat yourself out.
No, absolutely, and especially in South Jersey, right? I mean, it gets super hot and super humid like everywhere in the Northeast, but it kind of stays that way for a little bit longer than it does up north. Especially in Syracuse, but even here in northern New Jersey, Essex County. I guess I'll ask too. How's the weather down around? Is it any different than northern New Jersey or in the Northeast generally? Like, is it a little bit hotter or a little bit less snow?
I know you're doing geography as your thing, but I really haven't noticed a difference. You said the
Okay.
climates are different, but personally, maybe a little bit, but as a whole, it's something I'd expect to see in North Jersey, and I didn't feel out of place at all.
So the weather, not too much of a difference. It's not like you're going down to Georgia or Florida getting like summer all year round.
If there is a difference, I did not notice.
Okay. That's just what I want to ask because sometimes, like, this is just with me personally. I'll go down to South Jersey, or at least, like, I guess the only time I go to South Jersey is when I go to the beach. When I go to the beach, it's like always hot, always sunny. It's not like that at Rowan.
Yeah,
I
but
guess.
that's like Monmouth, Ocean County. That's on the
You're pretty inland.
east coast of this. I'm far inland, Gloucester County. It's on the practically on the border almost of Philly.
Yeah. So definitely not like the shore. You're not going to the beach every single weekend or at all. You said you were in the worst freshman dorm hall. We went over that. How's the dining hall at Rowan? Because we went over the off-campus food options, but how's the actual food that you have in your meal plan?
I thought it was fine. People just like to hate and complain on everything. Obviously wasn't world class, state of the art, but I thought it was fine. It was edible. Did get a little old though. We did have a dining hall, which I thought the food was fine. It's about average.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had in the student center. It was called the Marketplace. There's a bunch of restaurants. They weren't like really real restaurants, but they had good food. A part of the meal plan. There's like a Mexican food place, a sandwich place. There's a Panera ripoff place that was good. That was the most popular one. So I thought the food you could get with your meal plan, I thought was good, especially in the student center. No complaints.
So in your meal plan, a lot of colleges, you have to get unlimited swipes for freshmen. Was it like that at Rowan?
You didn't have to, but I did, and most people did.
And just to make sure, those things you said in the student center, they were included in your meal plan, like in full. Like you could go there as much as you want, or did they have like I know at my school they have like dining dollars, and you get like a certain amount of those on your meal plan, and you could spend those at places that are in the dining halls, but they're still on campus. It's weird, but
We had a system like that. We had dining dollars, and there's another thing called Rowan Bucks that a lot of nearby places would take, and you get a certain amount free from the college every semester.
And you by nearby places, you mean places that are off campus?
Yeah, like all the places on Rowan Boulevard specifically are required to take Rowan Bucks.
Oh, really?
And there are a couple other places not on Rowan Boulevard that would take them.
Gotcha. And I think that's really cool too, because it gives you that option of going off campus, but really not even spending your own money. Because you said the university gives you some Rowan Bucks, as you put it.
Nah, that's what they were called, Rowan Bucks. Like, that's the name they gave them.
Every college has the most corny names for.
They do it on purpose. It has to be.
Like Syracuse, for the website, it's called My Slice, like orange, like My Slice. Like,
oh, I get it.
going back to the classroom, more so at Rowan, how are your professors?
They were good, especially the gen ed professors. I loved my Rowan 101 professor. She does, besides Rowan 101, she does health sciences like kinesiology, I think is what she said, exercise science,
Uh,
which isn't something I'm doing or planning on doing, but I would have loved to have her. Her name was Lori Dwyer. Shout out her. She was great. My intro to sociology professor, she does sociology, psychology, and she's a lawyer as her
oh,
job.
really? So,
She was great. She was very helpful.
so she is like, I don't mean to interrupt you, but she has like an outside job besides being a professor at Rowan. Okay. And then on with the rest of your professors, because it seems like you have a lot of shout outs to give here.
Yes, but as I got into the second semester, like, and I took my first like business class, intro to macroeconomics. She was an Indian lady with an accent who was just tough, and
Could you like even understand her?
it was understandable. But she was just a typical foreign professor, not to stereotype, but
No, you're not.
they're tough. They teach a very classical style way. My calculus one professor spoke Mandarin Chinese, like she was fully Chinese with a heavy accent. She at points was actually a little hard to understand,
Mhm.
and she taught in one of those like tougher classical like 60s styles
Yeah.
way you'd say. It's just not compatible for the age we're in.
So you really got kind of both ends of the spectrum, right? You're really good professors that you loved and you want to take again, really like your Rowan 101 professor, but also ones where they weren't so great, or at least not so great for how you learn.
The macroeconomics professor, I didn't really like her. I'm not rushing to take her again, but the calculus one professor, the Chinese lady, she was good, just hard to understand, and her teaching style wasn't the best, but she was really open. You could email her. She was lenient with extensions and giving bonus grades on homework. It's just there's an accent barrier that was tough to overcome.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, luckily for me at least, my roommate and we were in this 8 a.m. math class together, and it was with this, I think he was Indian guy, thick accent, again at 8 a.m. in the morning, so you're barely waking up, you're barely making out of bed. I was able to switch out of it to like a 3:45 class in the afternoon, but my roommate, he'd just come back and he's like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing. So trust me, like, especially at like a big school like Rowan, Syracuse is kind of about the same size. You get those professors where, it's just hard to understand for whatever reason. It might not even be an accent thing, but just the way they teach. But you talked about how, first I'm going to ask about Rowan 101. What is Rowan 101? What kind of class is that?
It's just like the default class everyone has to take their first semester. I know Dante at Ole Miss took it, the Ole Miss version. Almost everyone I talked to had a version of that class. It's just your college success class, and it's a breeze. It's nothing.
It's like no sweat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had one of those too. They make it so that everyone can pass. Like, I think kids who didn't even turn in an assignment got a passing grade in that class. It wasn't really hard.
And the professor just made it so much better just to walk in every day. She was great. But you mentioned 8 a.m. before.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say don't take an 8 a.m., don't take an 8 a.m. And I disagree with that. I did have an 8 a.m. It was my sociology that I mentioned who I liked, the professor. People say don't take an 8 a.m. is because you won't be able to wake up. And for whatever reason, we did it 4 years of high school, waking up at 6:30, 7:15 maybe. For whatever reason, you can't do it in college, and you won't be able to. But as you get along in your second semester, freshman year, sophomore, junior year, and there's a great professor in your major, but they're offering an 8 a.m., take the 8 a.m. instead of the 11:30 class with the bad professor.
I think that's really good advice that I haven't heard at all on this show. A good professor at
8 a.m.
an inconvenient time like 8 a.m. is better than a professor who's not so great at a later time that might be better for you.
Yeah, as a freshman, you definitely want to avoid 8 a.m.s because even though you woke up at 7 a.m. in high school,
It's a totally different beast in college.
you did it in your senior year every day and probably the 3 years before that, waking up at 7 a.m. But I don't know what the psychology, you just can't do it in college. But when you're in your second semester, your sophomore, your junior year, when you're in the college or your school with your major and you're taking and your degree's getting closer, if there's a great professor who's only offering an 8 or a 9:30, take that over the 11:30, 2 o'clock class with the mid professor.
Well, trust me, I definitely agree 100%. I think a good professor makes all the difference. I mean, even luckily at Syracuse, all my professors have been good to outstanding for the most part. And But I agree. There's this one professor I had him for journalism, Adesio Martinez. Shout out if you're listening to this, you're the best. But if he had taught a class at 8 a.m., I'd probably take that just because he's that guy. And also, I think the psychology of it is in high school.
Everyone's doing one thing.
I wasn't even going to say that, but that's absolutely true. Everyone's doing one thing. Everyone has to get there at 8 a.m. Your parents or whoever is just waking you up, making you get out of bed. And if you don't go to class, you get in serious trouble, like not just with the school, but also with the law. Like if you just don't show up to school,
Yeah.
You're done. You don't get your diploma. You can't really do too much outside of that. But with college, if you don't go to class, besides like eventually probably having to drop out because your grades won't be good, mommy and daddy aren't calling you, telling you to get up. Your teachers most likely won't reach out to you.
No, they won't reach unless you're on the verge of failing a class because of attendance is missed. And Rowan, all classes have an attendance policy.
Really? Like even if they're huge lecture halls, you have to be in there for a certain amount of classes?
No, we don't have huge lecture halls. Our classes are capped at 35, and I've never really, I've had a class with 30 plus, but Rowan doesn't have 200 people lecture halls. We're all capped at 35. But every professor will, I think it's university policy, you can only miss a max of 6 classes a semester. If you miss more, you fail the class.
Like no matter what. Like even if you have an A and you miss 6 or 7 classes, you're done.
Yeah, you fail. And a lot of professors will do it. You'll have an attendance grade. So if you miss 1 or 2 classes without excuse, that's 5 percentage points knocked off. I skipped, in my Calculus 1 class, I skipped 1 class. I was like, it's 1 class. I'm not going to give her a reason. I just skipped unannounced because me and my friends went to a Yankee game in April, and my attendance grade was a 95%. I skipped 1 class without reason. It dropped 5 percentage points.
So what's a reason? Like what is a valid excuse to get out of class and not have it take a toll on your attendance grade at Rowan?
Sick is a one people used a lot. You need to catch up on work. Just like whatever high school excuses you'd use for not doing
my dog ate my homework.
Yeah, whatever high school excuses you would use, it was just college version, like, I'm just got the frat flu and I can't come to class.
You have a Friday 8 a.m. or like a Friday morning class. Yeah, I was partying too much last night. Like
that might not be excused. That might be worse than my skipping to go see the Yankees.
You know what? Yeah, it is because the Yankees suck this year. So, if they were a good team, Matt, I think if I was a professor, I'd be like, this guy wants to see a winning organization. We'll give him a pass. But, you're going to see a middling team. I mean, what's this guy doing? Like, just get your degree.
It was April 3rd, I think. It was home opener against the Phillies, too.
Ironically.
And Yankees won that game, like, big scores, like 8-3, I think. Back when the Yankees had hope.
Well, back when they could hit. And I guess going off you're 30 minutes outside Philadelphia without traffic. You're in South Jersey. Is the culture a lot different in South Jersey?
Yes. When people say North and South Jersey are 2 different states, they mean it. As a North Jersey person, I struggle to find a lot of North Jersey people. Rowan itself is 95% New Jersey.
Wow, it's that high?
Yeah, it's 5% out of state. I met 2 people not from Jersey.
Were they from like Pennsylvania or New York, or were they from further away?
The PA kid and a Colorado girl.
That's Colorado.
That's because the dean recruited out there and she's going there for free.
Okay. Always a reason. Always has to go back to money too with a lot of times with that stuff.
Yeah. But the South Jersey culture is different. Like different words for things, different actions people would do, and just a whole different vibe from North Jersey.
Like, and I guess more so tying into it, the Phillies were in the World Series. The Eagles were in the Super Bowl. I mean, they both lost, thankfully.
Yeah.
Deservingly. But how is it there, right, as a Giants fan, as a Yankees fan?
It sucked.
Were the people, they're famously very obnoxious fans. Is that stereotype true?
Yes. The stereotype of Philly having the worst sports fans in the country, I think, was true. As a Northern Jersey guy who's Giants, Yankees, and all the New York teams, they definitely look for every chance they get to rub it in that my teams weren't doing as well.
So the bill is true. Philly fans, even if they're not in the city of Philadelphia, even if they're in the same state that the Giants play in, they're still just as obnoxious as they are in Philadelphia proper.
That's what I've noticed, because they don't tie themselves to the state. It's more of Philly is closer than New York, so that's
Yeah.
why all South Jersey roots for Philly sports typically.
Which is a fair point, but I'm just not a big Philly sports guy. Was your roommate a Philly sports guy? I mean, I guess just
Yeah, he was.
going off that, well, so that's already 1 point against him. But did you like your experience rooming? I think you're in a single next year, correct?
I am, yeah.
So, I mean, what was the decision process going from a traditional double to a single? And then how was your experience rooming overall last year?
He was a good roommate. We never really hung out with each other. We just coexisted as roommates. We didn't go out together. We had that calculus class with the Chinese professor together. We gave work in, but we were good roommates to each other, but we just didn't cross paths.
Yeah. So just like naturally, you have nothing against the guy.
No.
But just naturally, you were like best friends with him.
Yeah.
I was kind of in the same boat with my roommate. Like we hung out in the first semester, but after we found our people, we kind of just branched off and like you said, coexisted.
Which is fine. You don't have to be married to your freshman roommate. It's just natural that you're going to have your own things. And if you can be friends, I've noticed at Rowan and just talking to people, girls tend to be closer with their roommate. I don't know if you had him on a show or if he will be, but Ty Vastola said he was in my boat. First semester, he coexisted with his roommate, and then I think they got switched, or the kid started acting up, and then he started to even hate the kid.
Yeah. I remember Ty was actually the first person I ever had on the show.
He's episode 1?
He was episode 1, and he went over that too. And that's also the same with a lot of roommates. Ryan Peeney, who goes to Virginia Tech, Dante, who you already brought up, who goes to Ole Miss, and myself. So really 5 of us, and that's a lot of the guys that I've had on. And Steve and Aaron Smookler, both commute, so they don't even have the experience of rooming. I think right, your stereotype is kind of true. I don't mean to even call it a stereotype because at least from my experience, it's true too. Guys tend to coexist with their roommates. I don't want to say in a more peaceful manner, but I guess just more in a consistent way where you could live with someone and not be besties with them.
It's like an agreement. Like, we're gonna live together, we'll be good roommates for each other, but chances are we're gonna do our own things. Where on campus at Rowan, every girl I've talked to goes out with their roommate, seems to be best friends with them.
It's really interesting because sometimes with girls, like I've heard stories at Syracuse and just all over too, where it can get so bad.
I've heard horror stories of things being stolen.
Like just overall at Rowan, or just like from girls?
Like girls stealing from their roommates.
Like jewelry, or just like petty things like a hairbrush.
Pettier things like taking food, 21 plus beverages, and other girl grooming products, like just taking it and then like asking them like, why is it gone? Like, I had more of these, where is it?
Yeah. And as a guy, it's like I'd get food from the dining hall. I'd need a paper plate. I would just like take it from my roommate, but I would never like go through his stash of whatever and just take it without asking. Like tape. I would take a piece of tape.
Yeah, like that's fine, but
normal stuff like don't like use your roommate's hairbrush or toothbrush or like weird stuff like that. But I think most people have an idea of like what to do and not to do. And from your perspective, what are some tips, some advice that you have for kids that have never had a roommate before and are going into their freshman year, not just at Rowan, but at any college? What are some tips to just be friends, but even if you're not friends, coexist peacefully with your roommate?
Just don't be a bad person to them. Like, you set your boundaries and just kind of do your own thing. To coexist at a good point, even if you're not best friends, you have to set your boundaries on what you're going to do and how you want things run. If you let them walk all over you and they start running it, it's going to get ugly pretty quick.
Have you heard any stories about that where like one roommate's, I don't want to say in charge, but kind of runs the show in their room? And like, because the big thing is, right, a lot of people have different sleep schedules. Like there are some kids that go to bed at 2 a.m. every night and still function. There are kids that go to bed like 10:30 or 11 because they have early classes or whatnot, or just because they like to. Because turning the lights out is a big thing, right? I remember my roommate would be up a little bit later, and he had like these strobe lights, and I fucking hated those little strobe lights. He'd have them on as like the most irritating colors, and you can't really say anything because it's his side of the room technically. But I guess what I'm trying to get at, without going on more of a ramble, is what do you do if you're in a position where your roommate's doing something that you don't really like, and it's kind of affecting the way you live? How do you kind of go up to them and tell them like, hey, this isn't cool?
You have to be straight up. You have to be stern in a respectful manner. If you didn't set that boundary and they are overstepping it and now it's getting to a point where it's getting ugly, you have to go up to them in a stern, respectful manner and tell them, this isn't cool and this can't be happening. Like you said, my roommate was always up later than me. My light was out between 11:30, 12:30 on average, and
Yeah.
he was always up later playing like PlayStation at that time. He, respectfully turned his light off since he wasn't really doing anything major.
Hmm.
But we really never had problems like that. The only problems we did have, my dorm building is suite style, so there's rooms attached.
Yeah.
Kid from across the hall, he was a problem in the bathroom when not cleaning up. But he was weird. We saw him twice.
Like the entire year?
The entire semester. Like, we didn't talk to him because he was just weird.
That's odd. Yeah. That's really odd. And you said it's like you didn't live with him, but you kind of lived in the same. You were neighbors with him. You only saw him twice.
Yeah, like the bathroom, it was connected. One side of the bathroom led to our room, the other side led to his.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You only saw him twice, and you literally were next door neighbors with a connection. But I guess if you don't really want to see a person, that's the beauty about college, that you don't really have to see that person unless you're rooming with them. And if you're rooming with them and you don't like them, you could still coexist, as we've seen today. I mean, you said you liked your roommate, but people don't, and they still coexist fine, and that's how it is at college. And Matt, as we start to wrap up here, I just want to ask a couple more questions. The first one of that is being, what do you do for fun at college, like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night? Matt Paris, what do you specifically do for fun?
I prefer to meet up with friends and it's always 10 out of 10 times me going over to their building because they're in the nicer one, I'm in the not so nice one.
Yeah.
So either meet up at their room and just chill in there for the night, or looking to go out somewhere and do something. That's what I prefer to do on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Which is just like doing something that's like going to like a frat party with your ratio, or
I did that sparingly, only every couple weeks to a month.
It's not a big party guy.
Not huge, no.
And I always ask this every single show. What's one sentence you'd use to describe Rowan University?
It's a fun time where a lot of people treat work as secondary.
Like secondary meaning they do it sparingly, or they just do it like after they party?
After they party, typically.
So it's not a work hard, play hard school. It's a play hard, maybe later we'll work hard school.
Yeah, I've noticed like outside of the STEM majors, it's a play hard school. And for another piece of advice I'd give to people, like, Thursdays are the Fridays in college.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot of frats at Rowan don't even throw on Fridays.
Really?
It's Thursdays and Saturdays.
So,
only a select few frats will throw on a Friday, and those parties aren't that crowded.
that's kind of surprising because at least at most schools it's like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm surprised at Fridays they just don't do it at all. I guess even the frat bros need their breaks.
I guess so.
But Matt, as we wrap up here, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, it was a pleasure having you on. I want to wish you the best of luck of your next. Oh my goodness, I can't even speak. We've had such a great time on the show. You've made me lose my voice. But I just want to wish you the best of luck your next 3 years at Rowan, and of course afterwards. I know I'll see you around, but Matt, just again, thank you so much for coming on.
Of course.